Okay guys, we're going to go over something that can be a little confusing for some people sometimes, and that is export settings. So how to export for especially Instagram and for the web, and we'll also cover how to export for prints if you decide to print your work. Okay, so once you're finished editing your photo, go over here to the left side of the screen of the Lightroom module and click on export. If you can't see this anywhere on your screen, go up to the top right where it says library, develop, map, etc. Click on library and you should see import, export. Okay, so now that we're on the export setting menu, there are a few different things you can do in the process of exporting. So we'll minimize all these tabs and take you through them one by one. Okay, so the first thing we have here is export location. This is the first thing you need to decide when you are exporting out of Lightroom. Basically determines where the file is saved. So for the purpose of this video, I'm going to select export to specific folder, and then I'm also going to create a subfolder for the image that we're exporting for it to go into. This can be really handy if you want to create an organized catalog of images that you can access later on easily. You know exactly how to find them and their order. So now that you have an export location and a subfolder made, let's move on to the next step. Now we have file settings. This is where you will determine the quality and size of the image after you export it. By default, you'll almost always use JPEG. So select JPEG and then you want to set our quality to 100. And then the next thing we need is to select our color space, and this is where some people get a bit unsure. But as a rule of thumb, if you're exporting for Instagram, a blog, or any kind of web use, then set it to sRGB. But if you want to print your photos or supply clients with photos they can print, then you'll want to select Adobe RGB. The reason being, if you export sRGB, then print your images, your colors will become much duller after they print, because the monitor on your computer generally has a much greater color gamut than printers. Changing your export settings to Adobe RGB will register that it's made for print, so you should get a great physical print that looks a lot more accurate. Okay, so file settings and image sizing are probably the most important things you'll need to get familiar with when it comes to exporting. If you want to create a really high resolution image that you can print, then leave the resize to fix box blank and change your resolution to 300 pixels per inch, often referred to as PPI. This will give you the biggest and highest resolution file that you can get, which is often used when printing or when you want to supply a client with really high quality resolution images. If you're wanting to export for Instagram or any kind of web use, then click on resize to fit, select long edge and change it to 2500 pixels. You'll then want to come over to resolution and set that to 100 pixels per inch. At the moment, it is true that by default, anything higher than 72 PPI that is uploaded to the web will automatically be compressed to 72 PPI anyway, and most images on the web are suggested to be somewhere between 1500 to 2000 pixels on the long edge. However, I like to give it a bit extra and choose 2500 on the long edge and a resolution of 100 PPI, just to give it a bit extra in case I display it large on my website, or if Instagram increases the amount you can display in the future. File storage isn't the biggest issue for me, so I don't mind having the extra resolution. And I even did an experiment on my test Instagram where I uploaded the image 10 different ways, different settings, and I came to the same conclusion that there is no need to upload an image larger than 2500 pixels, long edge, and a resolution of 100. But you guys can go check that out for yourselves. I'll leave them up on my test Instagram. A good real world scenario would be that you just finished a big shoot for a client and they need both web photos and print photos. So you would finish doing your editing, head over to export settings and export at 300 PPI, leave your resize fit box blank and your color space set to Adobe RGB for the best color accuracy and resolution when printing. And then another export, selecting resize to fit, change to 2500 megapixels, long edge, and 100 PPI, and a color space of sRGB so your clients can upload onto the web as well. There are a few other sections like sharpening. I generally skip over this because we've already done sharpening inside of Lightroom. Metadata basically gives you the option to include any information that was created upon import, as well as the option to include any keywords that might have been tagged. So if you're someone that really likes organizing and thrives off archives and cataloging, then this is a really handy option, but genuinely I don't include any metadata in my work. We'll just skip over watermarking because it's not really relevant. Okay guys, that's all for this one. I hope that makes a little more sense to you guys, a bit more clear on how to export photos, what settings you need to export for different scenarios. There's a bit to learn there, but with a bit of practice, it'll become second nature to you. If you have any questions about exporting, feel free to leave a comment in the Facebook group or send me a message and I'll do my best to explain. See you in the next one.